Question for you. Do you recognize these two kids? How about these two adults? Is there anything coming to mind as to who these four individuals might be? If not, it's actually okay. I didn't recognize them either, but I will tell you that my children are absolutely obsessed with these four individuals. And here's another thing. Potentially, these four individuals will be a huge savings grace for the comic book hobby as a whole. And in this video, I'm going to explain why I feel that way. Stay tuned. Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. I have another question for you. What was your first exposure to comic book characters? Was it in the form of the original source material, that being comics? Was it a toy, a video game, a movie, a cartoon? Was it a buddy at recess that said something to you? I am curious as to what your first exposure to comic book characters might have been. Down in the comment section, let me know what it happened to be. I will wager a guess that there are a multitude of ways in which we as comic book collectors and readers were exposed to comic book heroes and villains. That's my guess. And the reality is that there are still these vectors that exist, these exposure vectors. They are still around. They look very different because after all, there is no Saturday morning cartoons anymore. But movies, TV shows, video games, toys, all of these things still serve to expose children, the next generation of comic book readers and collectors, to the content, to the source material, right? I mean, you watch the cartoon and then you figure out that there's a comic and maybe you read it, right? That's the idea. I will tell you that I think we can add a new vector to the list. I think YouTube is another vector, specifically a channel called Kid City. Now, I will tell you that if you don't have children under the age of 15 or grandchildren under the age of 15, you probably have never heard of Kid City. But you probably have assumed that the four individuals that I showed you at the beginning of this video constitute Kid City. This is an incredibly annoying program. Oh my goodness, it is to some degree the bane of my existence because my children are obsessed. They are obsessed with this program. And I'm calling it a program. It's technically two different YouTube channels focused on games and a bunch of other stuff. But I believe that this is another vector of exposure for the next generation of readers and collectors. I firmly believe that. Now, why do I say that? Well, for one, between their two channels, they have almost 5 million subscribers. And yes, there is some overlap between the two channels. And yes, this is worldwide. 5 million people have opted to subscribe to these channels. And I say people, it's kids. I don't see any adults subscribing to these channels. It's kids or adults doing it on behalf of their children. The videos that they put out, millions of views. Now, why is this relevant? It's relevant because in a lot of their content, they are talking about comic book characters. They are spending a lot of time talking about Marvel characters, DC characters. They are playing video games featuring Marvel characters. They are going to stores, buying Marvel DC toys, and then coming home and playing with them and talking about the genre. They are exposing, again, the next generation of children to this source material. And if I haven't said it already, this show is incredibly annoying.
So, Spidey belt, I don't know how accurate that is.
Calls it a utility belt.
A utility belt. Looks like a Spider-Man championship belt, maybe intercontinental. These are his web wings. And this is pretty cool. This is like stretchy, like a web material. Okay, hold your arm out, bud.
Arm up and then release it.
Boom.
My children try to watch these shows, this channel, whenever they have a free moment. And I am torn. I'm torn because if I see Wolverine or Spider-Man on the channel, I know that that's actually a good thing, but I'm also like, you need to go outside and play, right? My daughter, who doesn't really get into comics knows a lot about superheroes. She recognizes characters. I've spoken about her artwork back there before. She knows the names of these characters. She also knows to some degree what they can and cannot do. Why is that? It's because she sits there on Saturday and watches Kid City. She watches them play video games. She watches them shoot web slingers and water squirters, and the dad do all kinds of silly stuff dressed as Wolverine. Again, I'm torn, but I'm also like, I see the benefit as a comic book reader and collector. I see the benefit to my kids recognizing this stuff. Not all 5 million of these kids around the world are going to become comic book readers and collectors. That's not going to happen. But they're being exposed to the source material, and they're being exposed repeatedly. The movies, the TV shows, the cartoons that are coming out, the graphic novels that are being put in schools in form of scholastics. Dog Man as a graphic novel, a well-selling graphic novel. All of this stuff is serving to expose children to this idea of superheroes, this idea of graphic novels and comics. And I think it's wonderful. Maybe they pick up manga. That's not my jam, but that's actually okay to me as well. I wanted to put this out there because, in my opinion, I don't think a lot of people are aware of programs like Kid City. But I am aware that there is a sentiment that the next generation of readers isn't going to be there. The next generation of collectors isn't going to be there because people's perception of what they see is that it's all adults. Kid City is something that you probably would have no understanding of unless you have young kids, but it's out there and it's fueling, in my opinion, the next generation, or technically it's adding to the fuel along with everything else. The same way that we were exposed to a ton of stuff back in the day, it's happening now. And that's why, again, I'm not terribly concerned with what's going to happen with the next generation of readers and collectors because I think that they're going to be there. If you have concerns about this, right, and I think that people are justified to feel that way, the question would be, my last question, is what can you do to help with that next generation? Donate books to hospitals, help, get comics into libraries, all of these things. Talk to the kids around you in your neighborhood. All these things, I think, go a long way to nurturing the next generation of readers and collectors. At least that's my belief. If you've heard of Kid City, if you knew who those people were, sound off in the comment section because I am curious as to how you knew about this. And I don't think that Kid City is the only program out there. I think there's others out there, but I focused on this one because repeatedly I've walked in and my children were sitting there watching these programs or would come in and ask me questions about a hero. And I'm like, how do you know about this? Kid City. With that said, we're going to wrap this video up. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I definitely want to encourage you to give the video a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. And if you want to reach out to me directly, you can do it on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.
Turn me up in my headphones a little bit, like I want to feel it, I want to hear it. All right, that's it right there. I spoke. When the sun rise, till it's burned out. No place to recharge, so we gotta learn how. Conversations with OGs that got dreams that never worked out. So they become masters of dream analysis. They come in the form of barbers and schizos. Warhead with a big nose.